On today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, looks like Andor is officially now going to be delayed until at least 2025. Foundation, however, gets officially renewed for a season 3. Disney Plus has now added a Hulu tab into Disney Plus, what the future of that will hold. And it is apparently now official. Daredevil has got delayed again. It's not going to come out till at least 2025. That and a few things more. The John Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio, brought to you in part by our friends at Mint Mobile. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming, and all sorts of good stuff. Not just giving you our opinions, but giving you a little bit of background and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or even different than ours. Joining me in studio today, we got Ray Ora.
Hello.
Jonathan Voico's here.
Hello.
Writer, director, producer Robert Meyer Burnett is in the house.
Great to be out of the house, man.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about those topics I listed off. Then in the last part of the show, we're going to take your live questions. If you guys are watching live and like to fire in a topic or question, go ahead and use the super chat feature in the live chat. We're going to turn those off at some point, but for now they're on, so go ahead and use that. But also, we're going to address some questions from our beloved YouTube channel members. We asked them just before the show to fire in some topics, and we're going to get through as many of those as we can. All right, guys. With that all down, let's get started with this. It now looks like Andor Season 2 is not going to be coming to us until 2025. And that really sucks because I think Andor Season 1, well, first of all, it got the highest honor that you can get as a television show. It got nominated for Best Drama Series at the Emmys. And I personally think, as much as I love Rogue One, and as much as I really like The Force Awakens, I think this was simply the best Star Wars we've had since the original trilogy. Like, since George put out New Hope, Empire, Return, that's always going to be the greatest Star Wars of all time is those. But since then, Andor Season 1, man, I was just absolutely floored and blown away, even though I admit I didn't know it was such a good idea to make that show when they first announced it. But here we are, and I thought it was incredible. Now, unfortunately, though, it looks like we're going to have to wait even longer than we thought. This comes to us from the folks over at Screen Rant, who write the following. Andor Season 2, the continuation of the critically acclaimed Star Wars TV show, has reportedly been pushed back to a 2025 release. A recent Disney press release confirmed 2 new live-action Star Wars shows would release in 2024, but one surprising omission was swiftly noted. There was no mention of Andor Season 2. According to Gizmodo, however, Andor Season 2 is going to be pushed back to 2025. They report sources close to the production who have advised that delays due to the writers and actors strike, as well as the time needed to release the other 2 shows. Now, the other 2 shows in question are Skeleton Crew, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but is being showrun by the Spider-Man director, John Watts, who directed Homecoming, No Way Home, and Far From Home. So he's going to be doing that. Listen, I think it's a neat sounding show. I'm not going to pretend that I'm super excited about it yet, but John Watts is doing it. I love what he did with the Spider-Man universe. I love that Jude Law is going to be in it. So there's some things to be excited about. But the other one is The Acolyte. Now, The Acolyte, that's the one I've been most excited about. The whole idea about looking at Star Wars through a completely different set of red lightsaber rose shaded glasses. I'm really excited about this, and I've loved everything I've heard coming out of it. So we're going to get those 2 in 2024, but it looks like the crown jewel, Andor itself, is going to be moved to 2025. And listen, we kind of suspected that it would. Tony Gilroy has talked about the long process ahead and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just really bummed. But you know what, Rob? One of the things that they mentioned in the Gizmodo report, saying that they wanted to give the other 2 shows room to breathe. And I think looking at what's happened with Marvel, with maybe the over flooding of the market with content, you got to give the stuff room to breathe. as much as I want an Andor season 2 as quickly as possible, they might be onto something saying, look, we got 2 shows coming out that year. We want to give them room to do it. I don't know. You heard about this. Are you surprised? What's your anticipation level like for Andor? And was it the right move to move it?
I'm not surprised, only because, I mean, this is shooting in Europe. It's shooting on real locations. It takes a long time. They've got a lot of post-production to do. It makes sense to me that they're not rushing it. And I think Disney has come to a reckoning moment in the sense that putting out a bunch of content was not working for them. They have to make sure that these shows, these are Tiffany diamond studded shows. I mean, these are supposed to be A-list event shows. They deserve to be the best they can be. And I think Andor lived up to that quality. I mean, I really like the idea that they're leaning into the wars aspect of the Star Wars as opposed to the Jedi Sith conflict, which we're going to get. Look, as far as I'm concerned lately, John, I want the Sith to win. And I would like to see a galaxy dominated by, who's to say, not every Sith Lord's going to be like Palpatine. I think the Acolyte should stand tall, whatever the Acolyte's going to do, and embrace that Sith, embrace the passion. Maybe they can run the galaxy better.
Well, yeah, I'll just throw out there, in some of the reading I've done historically with the Star Wars stuff, not a lot of community improvement projects under the rule of the Sith.
Yet.
Just
yet.
Man.
They might have an enlightenment. They might have an age of enlightenment. They might have a reformation, right. Like the Middle Ages we had here.
Yeah, maybe. They could be waiting for their own Constantinople to
it's
come
true.
along.
I do feel, though, if your name begins with Darth, it's kind of a bad sign.
Yeah, you're kind of set.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I mean, in all seriousness, I think, to take time to give us the kind of quality that Andor Season 1 gave us, looking forward to, I don't care how long it takes, to get that kind of a show back. Very excited.
What do you think about what we are getting in 2024 right now? So we got those 2 things. We got Sith back and relax. We got those 2 things coming to us. We got Skeleton's Crew and we got Acolyte. What are your thoughts on those?
Well, both of those interest me. Like, I know nothing about Skeleton Crew, but the fact that you have an auteurist director who brought us 3 great Spider-Man movies to head up a show, it seems like it's a passion project for him. So that excites me. It excites me to know that you have a creator that I think he's direct. I would imagine he's directing too.
He's directing.
And correct me if I'm wrong. Did he not leave Fantastic Four to go and do Skeleton Crew?
I think he did. I think he came up with the idea behind it. So I'm expecting, to be honest, I'm not knowing anything about it just because of his involvement and his passion for it. I think that's what Star Wars needs, and I'm excited.
And Daphne Keane has been very enthusiastic about The Acolyte and what we're going to see from that. So hopefully it'll be good enough to hold us over for Andor Season 2. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Coming off some bummer news about Andor not coming out till 2025, some good news, because I wasn't really 100% sure they would. But Foundation Season 3 has been officially greenlit. This comes from the folks over at Coming Soon who write the following. Foundation has been renewed for a Season 3 at Apple TV Plus, confirming the return of the sci-fi drama adapted from Isaac Asimov's seminal work. We have all been incredibly impressed with the ambitious, action-packed, and imaginative adaptation that David and the rest of his gifted creative team and cast have brought to life with this premium sci-fi series from day one, shared Matt Chersness, head of programming for Apple TV Plus, in a statement. This is just kind of, to me, the next chapter in what is the evolving story of Apple TV Plus. Because I've mentioned this before, but to lay it bare, I thought Apple was getting into something they had no business getting into. And when they did that big, it was about 3 or 4 years ago, they did that big presentation day where they talked about Apple TV Plus, our own network. Here are the shows we're going to be rolling out with. It was one of the most boring, badly put together, entertainment announcement days ever. None of it impressed me. And I was very skeptical. But you could make a very valid argument today with the likes of, this with Foundation, with the likes of For All Mankind, Severance. With the likes of Severance, with the likes of Shrinking,
Ted Lasso.
with the likes of Ted Lasso, and on and on and on, you might be able to make an argument that very quickly Apple TV Plus might be the best streaming service out there.
For the price, 100% that's correct.
Yeah, on a value product. Look, they don't got the library the size of a
Yeah.
Netflix or a Disney Plus, but I'm telling you what, I don't know if there's anybody's overall package of original content that they don't match up well against. And specifically, they might be the best thing in the world right now for sci-fi content.
Didn't they do Silo too?
Yeah.
They also
Yeah.
did Silo,
Wow.
which was really good. I mean, they have been knocking it out of the park with this stuff. And I'll tell you what, as far as Foundation goes, I was instantly taken with it. I still am. To me, the whole concept, I've talked about this, about Empire, brother dawn, brother day, brother night, and for one day, every 15 or 20 years, a brother dusk. And how they just rotate through. And what do they call it? The genetic dynasty, I think is what they refer to it as. And Lee Pace in this movie, or this show, I should say, is absolutely phenomenal. I thought I was a little bit worried about a sophomore slump going into season 2. I was afraid season 2 would drop off. And I'll say this, I didn't quite like it as much as season 1, but I still thought it was very strong. And I loved hearing this was happening now. Some of you might say, John, with the show being as good as it is, why did you have any doubts that maybe it'll be renewed? Well, because Apple TV Plus is still a very young network. And we've seen another network, Netflix, that has gotten into the habit of, we'll make some great shows and then cancel them suddenly in the middle of the night. Right? Whole bunch of people, I was just reading this morning, a whole bunch of people very pissed off at Netflix that Bone and
Shadows and Bone.
Shadows and Bone. Yeah, not Bone and Butt. That's a totally different thing.
Oh,
That follows Sex,
that's
Sex
changed
Court
quickly.
TV. Shadow and Bone got canceled.
The
And some
queso.
people thought it was like one of the best things they had on there. And I was wondering, now that Apple TV's been around for a bit, are we going to get into these? Oh yeah, third season? Yeah, that's where the salary demands got a lot higher and people want new contracts and it's more trouble than it's worth and we're just going to cancel and move on. So I was very relieved and happy to see we're getting a season 3. Anyway, Rob, what's been your thoughts on Foundation so far? What are your thoughts on it getting renewed for a season 3? How you feeling about that?
Well, I really liked season 2. I thought, I maybe even more than season 1, I thought it kicked it into high gear, made some really interesting choices. I thought the show is, I mean, it's in terms of highbrow sci-fi, it's not Asimov's novels, but they're doing some really interesting things, and I think it's quite good. And one of the great things about Apple, as much as I love For All Mankind, I was worried it would get past season 1. And now we're about to have the 5th episode of the middle episode of right in the middle of season 4, and they seem to be really high on that show. The great thing about Apple is because they have all the money in the world, because that's not their primary business, making TV and making movies, that if they like something, like we hear the heads of Apple like these shows, they can just keep them on. And they're building up a portfolio of really excellent, especially speculative fiction. I would throw Severance into vaguely a sci-fi show.
Sure, yeah, I would
Severance,
absolutely.
Silo, this, For All Mankind, and who knows what else they're going to, even Finch, the Tom Hanks post-apocalyptic movie.
Yeah, I didn't love that.
I didn't love it,
myself.
but it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it aspired to do something, and you had Tom Hanks in it. And was it? It's not Bird Box, the Blackbird, the prison with Taron Egerton. That
Oh
limited-
yeah, a Blackbird?
Blackbird. That was great.
Yeah.
I love that too. So they're quietly developing a really great portfolio of beautifully produced shows that I'm quite enjoying. But Foundation, the fact that we're getting literary-minded science fiction, Silo is based on a book series, Foundation is based on a book series. I love seeing this because no one else is doing it.
this kid stole my look.
You know what else they're doing that is rare amongst the streamers right now? They seem right now, at any rate, to be committed to giving shows a chance.
Yes.
Case in point, Invasion.
Yeah.
That
Give it a
show
chance,
sucks.
baby.
That show sucks in my
Season 2,
opinion.
baby.
But you know what? And a lot of people grumbled about it, said it's boring, whatever. But you know what Apple said? They said, you know what though? We want to give the show a chance to develop, and let's see what happens if we let it go into a season 2, right? And one thing I do want to point out, because I see some people in the live chat saying it as well. I know I do this too. We just think Apple has all the money in the world, and they do have all the money in the world. They're the most profitable, most valuable company on the planet. But that doesn't mean each division they run has all the money in the world.
Right.
When they set up a division like this, that division has its own responsibilities and they have their own budget. And the main company isn't just going to keep throwing money at it. That division has to prove that they can become profitable on their own. And I think the job they've done by, number one, not going too hard and trying to produce, like Disney Plus's approach, for every one premium piece of content, and by premium piece of content, I'll mean a Star Wars show, an MCU show, they were also cranking out like 6 or 7 diddly pieces of crap that nobody really wanted to see. I remember the girl who played Angela in The Office. She had her own Disney-themed cooking competition show on it, right?
All right.
Which, by the way, I kind of liked. But I mean, they would put out like a whole bunch of these little things. Apple doesn't seem to have that approach. They just seem to have, no, we will only put up stuff that we believe has the potential to be extremely high quality.
I think
so they've gone with a quality, not a quantity.
I think
approach.
their idea is right on. I think they're trying to compete with the HBO kind of market.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Netflix. They don't seem to be acting like Netflix is
Right.
their competitor. They're acting like HBO's their competitor.
Yep.
I also think, John, as much as I would joke that I always forget Invasion, another science fiction show that had the most boring alien invasion I'd ever seen.
You shut your mouth.
But I know you said season 2 is good, but here's the thing I would say to that. What I really like about what Apple seems to be doing is they're putting the creator first. They're making shows that have a showrunner's vision behind them.
Yeah.
Now, I might not have loved Invasion, but I watched it all, and it was but it was done. You could see the people that were behind making it. They knew what they were making, and they had a plan, and they had a structure. And I can't expect everything to be 100% effective, but as long as I know that the people that are making the shows have a vision behind them, I'll watch it. As opposed to some of the Marvel shows, I haven't felt that there was that vision behind the camera.
Yeah, I will say I haven't seen Invasion yet, but
You're not missing anything.
They did take like a Sixth Sense approach in that with Sixth Sense, each movie was an act, so it's risky. So Sixth Sense was the first act, and then the next movie that came out years later was the second and the third act.
You mean Unbreakable?
You mean Unbreakable?
Unbreakable, yeah, not Sixth Sense. Unbreakable.
I was like,
yeah. And so like from what they're explaining, the first season of Invasion was that first act.
right.
The second season is the second act, so it's the rising action, and you know what I mean. And
Yeah,
it's
which
risky.
again, the vision.
Yeah.
Vision.
It's
Was that
risky.
right?
I'm just telling you, like, out of all the streaming services, in terms of new, Apple, I think, has got the game wrapped right now. Just because I've watched so many first episodes on Apple TV Plus because I was actually interested in see. Like,
Yeah.
a lot of the premises of their shows are great. Like, even Big Door Prize. That show is kind of sci-fi-ish where there's a little machine in a liquor store and they see what they're going to turn out to be.
That was good. I like that show.
And then there's also that show where they were selling real estate on the moon. That sci-fi
Yep.
show.
Yep.
There's some great like ideas that they're throwing out
Yeah,
there.
they seem to be very willing to step out there, try something. Don't do it until you've got the scripts and everything down perfect, and they swing for the fences. And so far, they've been having some pretty good results.
And Tetris was really good too.
Oh yeah, and some of their individual stuff has been really sharp. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, Foundation greenlit for season 3. Well done on Apple. All right. With that down, guys, we're going to go into our, just thank a couple of sponsors. But before we do, we want to just catch you up on a couple of other things going on in the world of entertainment, just really quickly here, and kind of like a movie news feed sort of thing. First up is this. Craig Mazin has announced the start date for Last of Us Season 2, and that's going to be February 12th. Season 2 in Variety of The Last of Us will commence on February 12th. Showrunner Craig Mazin disclosed the production start date during a night at the Writers' Room, a panel featuring writers from popular drama series moderated by Variety senior TV editor Emily Longaretta. So now we actually know when they go in front of cameras. We had heard it was probably going to be sometime in early 2024. Now we got it, February 12th. Now we just got to find out how quickly they can get through it and, bring it to the screen. Also, speaking of bringing things to the screen, Wonka is going to be coming out here, and the reviews have been very positive. We talked a few days ago about the first reactions that came out, but the actual review embargo lifted about a day or two ago. and so far pretty solid. Even though I've been very, very excited for this movie, because you got Paul King, the director of Paddington and Paddington 2. So I don't see how this movie can go wrong with that guy directing it. But I was kind of expecting a lot of people to maybe feel iffy about it, but as of right now, it's got an 85%.
Nice.
On Rotten Tomato, which has gone up. The first reaction came out, the first reviews came out, sat around 79. It's gone consistently up since then. So really excited about seeing that. On a sadder note, TV legend Norman Lear died at the age of 101. He passed away. Now, some of our younger viewers and stuff like that, I mean, a lot of his stuff was before my time, but I would watch reruns as a kid and what have you. But I mean, he could be maybe the single most responsible person for social progression on television coming out of the 70s.
100%.
He's the guy who created All in the Family, where they touched on a subject that had never really been touched on. They did a short storyline. Jonathan and I were talking about this beforehand. They touched on rape in that. There was a short storyline that went over 2 episodes where Edith almost got raped, and that became kind of a thing. He did Sanford and Son, which, I mean, broke down all kinds of doors. And for a while, All in the Family and Sanford and Son were the #1 and #2 shows in America. He went on to do other like really interesting ideas that hadn't been addressed on television. One Day at a Time, a show about a single mom and her daughters. Different Strokes, he made of a white guy adopting 2 black kids. I mean, it was just, of course, today Norman Lear, by a lot of the online punditry world, would be called a woke left agendaist. That's what he would be crowd today, pushing his agenda. That's what people would call him today. But he is seriously one of the most responsible people for moving the whole idea about social movements on television, covering ground that had never been covered before, and passing away at 101. Also, last night finally became available, or became official, SAG-AFTRA ratified the strike deal.
Finally.
And it actually was by a bigger margin than thought. It actually, some people thought it could be close, but it actually ended up being like a 78% yes, which still means 22% of the union voted against it. Of course, it became a big question mark when one of the board members of SAG, Matthew Modine, last week came out and viscerally spoke against the deal, didn't want the deal done. A lot of other voices in you came out, but I guess at the end of the day, thought, yeah, you know what? We got what we got. Let's go 3 more years. We'll come back to the table, see what we can do. But it is a deal worth over $1 billion and is basically worth triple what the 2020 deal was for SAG-AFTRA. So it was over when they made the deal, but now it's officially over. The strike is now done. All right, guys, listen. We still got to talk about a couple things, like Hulu has now been added to Disney Plus, at least in beta. Daredevil has been pushed back to 2025. Not a big surprise there. We're going to discuss that a little bit. But before we get to those, we're going to take a quick second and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Quip and MasterClass. Guys, we want to take a second to thank the sponsor of today's video, Quip. Good health starts with good habits, and Quip makes forming good dental habits easy by delivering all of the oral care essentials that you need to care for your mouth. I've already told you guys about their incredible toothbrush that is now my favorite toothbrush I've ever owned, and their mints and gum are amazing. But now I want to tell you about their water flosser. It hits all the right spots with gentle or deep cleaning pressure at the touch of a button. And don't worry about recharging. The cordless rechargeable battery lasts up to 8 weeks with daily use, no bulky charger or dock or tangled cords. It blasts away up to 99.9% of plaque and popcorn from treated areas with precision thanks to the 360-degree rotating magnetic floss tip that snaps right into place. It's easy to control water flow that leaves you feeling squeaky clean. And the sleek and slim design, it keeps your countertops as clean as your teeth. So guys, if you go to getquip.com/Campea right now, you'll get 20% off any electric toothbrush, mint and gum dispenser, and water flosser. That's 20% off any electric toothbrush, mint and gum dispenser, water flosser at getquip.com/Campea. Spelt GETQUIP.com/Campea. Quip, the good habits company. We want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this video, MasterClass. Guys, as a small business owner, I am finding myself having to be in negotiations all the time, whether it's with new contractors, vendors, or even agencies that represent our company. Now, I don't like to go into these negotiations unarmed, so I found the perfect class on MasterClass, The Art of Negotiation by Chris Voss, a real-life former FBI lead hostage negotiator. Taking this class on MasterClass made me feel a lot more equipped and confident going into all these various negotiations I have to do on a regular basis. MasterClass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Every instructor, thousands of online lessons, exclusive content, insight, and much more. There are over 180 classes to pick from, everything from filmmaking with Martin Scorsese all the way to cooking with the great Gordon Ramsay. In MasterClass, you will find practical lessons that you can apply to your life and work. This holiday season, give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/Campea. Right now, you can get 2 memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/Campea. masterclass.com/Campea. Offer terms apply. And thank you to our friends at Quip and MasterClass for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Well, you got the Disney Plus and Hulu and ESPN bundles and blah, 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 blah. In other parts of the world, Disney Plus has like a star section, which is a lot of what the FX and Hulu content would be here. But we remember a while ago, they announced that they were going to start integrating Hulu right into Disney Plus. And as of today, they've started rolling that out. This comes just from the folks at Variety who wrote the following. Beginning December 6th, the significant majority of Hulu content will be available on Disney Plus in the US for subscribers of both services. Disney's expectation is that by mixing Hulu programming into Disney Plus, customers will spend more time overall watching stuff, thereby cutting down churn. That's the number one problem that all streamers are facing right now is churn. And customer acquisition costs. As Iger said on the company's earnings call last month, next year, the mouse intends to begin promoting Disney Plus/Hulu bundles more aggressively. And that comes to us from Variety. So today, kind of in a beta mode, some people are waking up, opening up Disney Plus, and they're seeing this. Up there in the carousel with Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, National Geographic, a bunch of you may have noticed now that there's also a Hulu tab.
Ooh.
That within that tab, not everything yet, but the vast majority of the stuff that you can get on Hulu is now right there inside the Disney Plus
I call it the
app.
bad words tab.
They call it the swear jar tab.
Yeah.
The boob tab. That's one they should put up there. And this is good because just the other day we were talking in here and Ray was mentioning that, and I think Jonathan too, is like, it's kind of a pain in the ass sometimes with a lot of streaming services. You got to remember all the logins, all the passwords. You got to jump out of one app, go into another app, different shows. And it's a lot easier when they have like an Amazon model where you can get a lot of these things right within the Amazon 4 walls, right? For Disney Plus to add this is something that a lot of us have speculated they'd be doing for a long time. Like I said, internationally, they kind of do something like this already with Star. And it's going to be really interesting to see how this evolves. Now, it says that right now this is only going to pop up for people who are both subscribers to Disney Plus and Hulu.
So if you have the bundle.
So if you've got the bundle, like I do, I haven't checked my Disney Plus yet today to see if I got that little tab, but they are starting to slowly roll it out. If you don't have it yet, keep checking in the coming days. You might get it. I wonder if at some point, though, they aren't just going to move towards Hulu is just a part of Disney Plus, and all you got to do is subscribe to Disney Plus. Maybe they start going in that direction. I suspect maybe they will. Maybe they then even integrate ESPN.
They'll have to change their name.
Well, yeah, and then they may actually change their name.
Spectrum Cable.
To Spectrum Cable.
How'd that sound?
It's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, they're trying to make more and more streaming services today, instead of being niche things, which is what everybody thought they would be initially, more and more of the streaming platforms are turning into a one-stop shop for everybody. Even like Max has now introduced sports, live news, like all this kind of stuff. And it kind of looks like more and more the big streaming services will be bundled, and they're going to be places that have everything. Live news, sports, live shows, aggregated content, licensed content, original content. Basically to what Ray just said. Might as well rename it to Spectrum Cable. It's kind of going to become like this. I, for one, am kind of excited about this, to see it all just integrated in one app. Rob, you heard about this. Do you think this type of approach, you know, the other day we talked about Verizon is going to start offering Disney Plus and Max together in a bundle for $10 a month and stuff like that. But do you think stuff like this will indeed help cut down on churn? Because the more stuff that's there, maybe the more likely a user will stick around. I
think you're absolutely right about that. I think it will cut down on churn because, like you said, there's more on offer. Or when you pay your money, you've got a lot more choices, a lot more variety. But here's the thing, John, I've noticed, like with Max, I liked HBO. I like HBO. I like going to HBO and like, here's all your shows and here's your movies and your variety shows or whatever HBO's got going on. Now there's like too much stuff. You know, I'm getting there and I'm like, I don't want that.
Because you've got HBO stuff. You got all the Discovery stuff.
Yeah.
You got now CNN stuff. They've got new sections for live sports. It's becoming that one-stop shop for everything.
I'm like, now I'm back to cable. And it used to be when I turned on HBO Max or when I activated it, I knew I wanted movies or maybe go dip back into their shows. You know, I like turning on HBO and like, oh, I'll watch a couple episodes of Sopranos just to remind me of how much I liked like that Pine Barrens episode or something. And now it's just it's a bunch of stuff one more time. And I feel I'm going to miss the specialization of certain streaming providers. And I guess it's better for content, but now I feel it's a little regressive.
Yep.
So in other words, less is more.
Jonathan, can you bring that image back up? With like, if they can, I think, because I completely agree with you.
But I like this.
Yeah. See, I think if they can, it's all about the user interface, right? Because one of the things that Disney Plus does really well, and they don't do everything really well, but one of the things they do really, really great is the moment Disney Plus opens up, you're presented. Do you want traditional Disney? Do you want the Pixar stuff?
Right.
Do you want Marvel? Do you want Star Wars, National Geographic, or Hulu? And it doesn't feel, unlike the way I feel sometimes when I open up Netflix, I just feel daunted. But when I open up Disney Plus, it's like everything, like a well laid out operating system on your laptop.
Totally agree.
If everything's laid up and organized right, and you feel like you can get right to what it is you're looking for, or the kind of stuff you're looking for, if Max can create a user interface that feels more comfortable with that, because I'll tell you what, I opened up Max the other day, which by the way, is one of my favorite streaming services. I love Max.
Yeah,
I do. But I was looking for a particular show Ann and I wanted to watch, and it took me a while going through it. Like I couldn't tell the way they were organizing it.
See, with a bunch of these streaming services joining together, they run into the risk of clutter. Like just cluttering
clutter's
everything.
a big thing.
I mean, I believe by the end of 2025, we're going to have like 4 or 5. That's it left of like just everything packed.
I don't think you're wrong.
On my iPhone, I'm the type that actually tries to organize all his little icons in like sections, like business
and folders. And stuff
folders like that. I think all these companies, if they're going to do this, they're going to really need to do a remake of their user interface. I've not picked something on a streaming service because I couldn't find it, or because it was so cluttered that I actually went back to my cable just because I was like, I can't find it. So I went back to watching regular TV. They really do need to do an overhaul on all their interfaces, Max, Disney Plus, just to make everything easier for the user to find things.
Well, I mean, if you look at something like a Chromecast, like I use a Google Chromecast TV device, right, on 2 of our TVs. I use Roku on one of them. But the great thing about the Google Chromecast is right from the main home screen of Google Chrome, there's a button on the remote that's the Google Assistant. And all I have to, let's say we just talked about a minute ago, one day at a time. Let's say I was in the mood to check out, now that Norman Lear's passed away, I feel like checking out one day at a time. All I got to do is hold down the button on my remote, say one day at a time. And boom. And Chrome will show me everywhere that I can go watch it. Here's where you can watch it streaming for free. Here's where you can go rent it. Here's what it's a pretty good thing. But again, to the point, it would be good if they can organize them better. But listen, with Hulu merging into Disney Plus like this, they've got the right kind of user interface, and it's going to be interesting to see how this works.
You know,
out.
John, to speak to that Hulu interface that gives you like their 5 top shows: Only Murders in the Building, Prey, not the Kardashians, I wouldn't watch that. The
How
Bear.
dare you?
How dare you?
But the thing is, usually when I'm going to a streaming service and I know one of their marquee shows is on it, that's what I want. I'm usually looking for one of those new marquee shows I haven't seen yet, like The Bear is something I just started watching. To see that on that user interface is much appreciated.
Yeah.
That I really like.
All right, guys.
Sex Court TV.
TV. You can't say that out loud.
Sex Court
You
TV.
can't say that out loud sometimes.
All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Daredevil delayed again. Daredevil Born Again is now not coming out until at least 2025. And I use the term at least. Now, it was all the way back in 2022 when they announced with great fanfare and excitement that Daredevil, the kind of Netflix Daredevil, but not exactly the Netflix Daredevil, is coming over to Disney Plus with an 18-episode season. Not like that bullcrap 6-episode shit they keep giving us, but an 18-episode season. Daredevil's coming every Saturday. It's going to come 2024. Well, or it's going to come in 2023. Well, guess what? We heard then that initial hopeful projections 2022 got kind of moved to 2024, and now it ain't even coming out in 2024. This comes to us from the folks over at Screen Rant, who write the following. In a post on Disney.com, it seems this suspected delay is all now but confirmed. The post in question details the major Disney Plus releases coming in 2024 from the efforts of Star Wars and the MCU to Disney's various other productions. Concerning the Marvel Studios franchise, the only projects listed for the MCU are Echo, Agatha Darkhold Diaries, and the animated X-Men 97. So only 2 live action series in 2024 to go along with only 1 movie, Deadpool 3. After the damning report on the status of Daredevil, and we'll talk about that in a minute, production September 2023 hinted at a delay of the show's initially planned 2024 release, and it seems it has been officially confirmed via the House of Mouse itself. Okay, so we initially saw that there was some problems in Hell's Kitchen when production would get held up by the writer's strike. Now, really, it shouldn't have held it up because the scripts were written for Daredevil, but the writers, were totally within their right, decided to protest and march in front of Daredevil production sites, and it just shut the production down. And that continued on. Then, of course, the actor strike happened, all that kind of stuff. So we all started to suspect, well, maybe this thing might get delayed. But then came the big thing, and we all remember this, when they just scrapped the whole show, or at least practically the whole show. They stepped in and said, you know what? This does not live up to our standards. We can't afford to drop the ball on Daredevil. This is not up to what used to be the MCU quality. And they just decided, you know what? Instead of just trying to fine tune it and move some things around in post, we're going to go back to the drawing board. Now, they did say there was a couple things they're going to keep from stuff they've already shot. So they're going to try to salvage as much as they can. But they brought in a brand new writer. They said they're bringing in a brand new showrunner. For the first time ever, they were going to have a showrunner, because that Disney Plus hadn't used showrunners up till this point. And they were going to do all this kind of stuff and do it right. And that's when most people went, there's not really any chance that this thing's going to come out in 2024, is there? But still, hope remained. Hope remained. Well, that hope is now gone. It's not coming out till at least 2025. And I say at least because we haven't heard that they've now got a script ready to go. We don't know how long it's going to take them to develop this. I mean, I think there's a very real possibility this thing may not come out until maybe early 2026. But that fear that they had, that we can't afford to drop the ball on Daredevil. Secret Invasion comes out and craps the bed. It's unfortunate. It does hurt our brand, but it's not like everybody in the world was sitting on pins and needles waiting for Secret Invasion. The world is sitting on pins and needles waiting to see Daredevil. And you can't mess it up. You can't. Especially with the state. Like if we were back in 2018 when Marvel was still riding high and every freaking thing Marvel put out was a smash hit with the audiences, with the critics, with the box office. Well, yeah, you could put out a crappy Daredevil show and you'd be okay. But not now. because you're not riding high with the audiences. The overall perception of Marvel has never been lower. It's still not terrible, but it's never been lower. And you come out and put out a crappy Daredevil show in that environment, shit, son, that could kill you. So, I mean, it sucks. I think we all expected it wouldn't come out in 2024. Rob, there's a couple of interesting things here. Number one, the fact that it is now official. Disney's saying, here's what's coming out in 2024, and Daredevil ain't one of them.
No.
How are we feeling about that? Also, how are we feeling about what they do have coming up? I mean, in terms of live action, we've got Agatha and we've got Echo, who I've never seen public perception on a show turn around over a trailer
around.
Well,
like we've seen with Echo. Anyway, what are you feeling about all this?
Well, first of all, any franchise is only one great show or movie away from being on top again. And that Echo trailer was definitely a banger. I mean, you and I, we've not expressed enthusiasm for an Echo show, to say the least. But after seeing that trailer, I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that trailer.
I'm in. I mean, it pressed all my
trailer.
crime thriller buttons and all that. Agatha, whatever. It's fine. I'd have to see more of it to make a decision. I thought that behind-the-scenes thing was interesting. It left me a little optimistic. But in terms of Daredevil, they already screwed up that show, and they pulled the plug. And I think that they're retooling it and starting from scratch. I think that's a really great step in the right direction. It actually makes me more excited for the retooling, because here's the thing. I don't care how long it takes to get us something, as long as the results are good. I'm not going to be bummed out. I'll find something else to do in 2024 rather than I'll read a book, John, or 3. I don't need necessarily to see another half-baked superhero show. And the thing is, Daredevil is coming on the heels of 3 very, I thought, maybe not every moment was as great as certain other moments, but the 3 seasons of Daredevil were very respectable. And
I loved them.
I enjoyed them, and I thought that was a really fine show. And that is the bar, man. And if we're not going to get at least that, why bother? Why bother? And I think they know that. I think this was smart. I think this is exactly what the MCU's got to do. They got to make sure that we don't get any more lackluster product that people are shoving down a pipeline because they need to do it. And I think it's smart. I think and Charlie Cox deserves better, man. His Daredevil's awesome.
Yeah, and listen, I've said this before, I will say it again. With all the problems that me and a lot of people had with She-Hulk, Charlie Cox's Daredevil was not one of those problems.
No.
I mean, Charlie Cox brought some of the few bright moments, I think, to that show. And listen, and as much as I didn't like She-Hulk, by the way, I wouldn't mind seeing that couple on screen again. I wouldn't mind seeing... The character's name, Tatiana played Jennifer, right? That's the
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't mind seeing Jennifer and Matt on screen. I liked their dynamic. Again, for me, it was one of the few bright spots in a painfully unfunny show. So it'd be kind of cool to see that. I'm actually still I'm a little bit different than you on this. I'm very excited for Agatha. I was enthralled with the character in the show. It is still a new dark corner in the MCU that they haven't really explored, witchcraft. And I love that one scene in WandaVision when they did the flashback to Salem. And
Yeah, look.
a lot of possibilities there.
My only thing is this. It's the tone of it. Now, She-Hulk, I thought She-Hulk the people that were making it, that were writing that show, the showrunner, didn't understand the show they were making because it changed from episode to episode. I'm like, what is this? And it was disappointing because they had such rich source material going back to that John Byrne run. They could have made it work. I feel the same way now that I have seen She-Hulk that I feel about Agatha. That's a tough tone with Catherine Hahn. They have an incredible performer. I love her. I want to love this show, but the tone of it has to be right. And they're delving hardcore into the supernatural like they did with Man-Thing, like they promised to do with Blade. So I think it has a lot of heavy lifting to do in terms of setting up the supernatural aspects of the Marvel Universe that I hope are great. Please be good.
Yeah. And I think they're going to crush it. I really do. I have a lot more hope in it than I do in Echo.
If it's Darkhold Diaries, I'm assuming it's a prequel to Multiverse of Madness because the Darkhold's gone.
No, it's not. Apparently it is a continuation of WandaVision. It's what
Interesting.
happens after the events of WandaVision.
But there's no Darkhold anymore. But
So,
I guess we'll find out.
well, that we know of.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll see. All right, guys. With all that down and out of the way, we're now going to move on and start taking your live topics and questions you guys are asking. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second here and thank a couple of more sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at HelloFresh and my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, HelloFresh. With HelloFresh, you get farm-fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable, and that's why it's America's #1 meal kit. Say hello to a stressless holiday season with the help of HelloFresh. Skip the grocery store and save time with easy, tasty recipes delivered right to your door. Because 'tis the season for giving and gathering, and with HelloFresh, it can also be the season of saving. Actually, save money this month with fresh recipes delivered cheaper than takeout, and with pre-portioned ingredients, you'll never waste money on excess food again. You know, guys, I've often talked about that Ann and I are both working professionals, and it can be a struggle around dinner time to get healthy and delicious meals put together. But with HelloFresh, they make it easy, they make it fun, and they make it delicious. So guys, go to HelloFresh.com/CampeaFree and use the code CampeaFree for free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life at HelloFresh.com/CampeaFree with the code CampeaFree. Guys, we want to take a moment to thank a sponsor of today's video, Mint Mobile. Give yourself the gift of insane savings this holiday season with Mint Mobile's best wireless deal of the year. Right now, when you switch to Mint Mobile and buy any 3-month plan, you'll get another 3 months for free. That's 6 months of premium wireless service for the price of 3. And Mint Mobile lets you order and activate from home while saving tons on phone plans starting at just $15 a month. Seriously, I can't think of a better gift than turning an overpriced wireless bill into just $15 a month with Mint Mobile. I've told you guys many times, since switching to Mint Mobile, I am spending less than a third on my mobile service plan with Mint than I was on the previous big carrier who was my provider. By going online only and eliminating the traditional cost of retail, Mint Mobile passes the significant savings on to you. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and switch easily and effortlessly with eSIM. So again, for a limited time, buy any 3-month Mint Mobile plan and get 3 more months free by going to mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at HelloFresh and Mint Mobile for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. Okay, guys, with that down, let's get over and start taking your live questions here, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
We got Rafael Castillo. He says Norman Lear was to the 70s sitcoms what Mark Twain and Ernest Hemingway were to the novel. He put things on TV that no one else dared to and changed television. And he said them in original ways.
Yeah, in many ways, we'll often talk about, the original Star Trek series and like how progressive it was and how it broke new ground, particularly like with the Uhura and Shatner first kiss. But like Norman Lear, like everything he did on television was, we look back on it now and don't think about it, but in the context of when they came out, he was constantly breaking new ground.
Oh, dude, you go back and you watch All in the Family. I mean, All in the Family, Archie Bunker was a bigot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the stuff that show would get canceled today. If you were to, the stuff that they were saying on that show, and they were confronting bigotry head on, and your main protagonist, I mean, he was a folk hero almost, but we all recognize that by seeing ourselves or seeing the bigotry, confronting it directly the way that show did, unapologetically, it made people stop and think, maybe I shouldn't be that way. And it almost like his shows, especially in today's racially charged environment, you go back and you watch those shows, first of all, they're really well written, and they feel really adult. You think like, oh, they were in the 70s, so they're not as smart. No, they were. And he never pandered. He made the characters, even though they weren't exactly the best people, you actually like them because you felt that by watching those shows, even though they said offensive things or something, there was such humanity. He had such humanity with which he dealt with these issues that I always felt, because I watched, my parents loved All in the Family. I mean, I saw every episode of that show. And even as a little kid, I'm like, is that okay to say? Like, I can't say that out loud. But I did feel that he was first and foremost a humanist. He liked people and he liked human beings. And in confronting the issues of the day the way he did, he elevated everybody.
I mean, Jonathan and I were talking about too, like, see, I don't know that I agree that you couldn't air that today, because it's often the same way with something like, say, The Office. A lot of people say that you couldn't air The Office today. But Jonathan and I were talking about this beforehand.
Yeah.
It's all in how it's presented, right?
Yes.
Like Michael Scott.
It's who's saying it.
Yeah, it's who's saying it. And because Michael Scott could always say the things he was saying, because the show doesn't present it as Michael Scott being right saying those things. He's kind of presented as, and like with Archie, it was often, he wasn't being presented as being right. He was being presented as, I love the way you put it, Rob, the way like he became a mirror that we held up to ourselves. And
Yes.
it was just so.
If you
ahead of
only
its
had
time.
Archie, but you didn't have Meathead, it
Right.
would have been a problem.
Yes.
Yes.
That was Rob
Reiner.
That was Rob Reiner, by the way. Went on to become one of the most successful Hollywood directors.
But it was a time when I think what Norman Lear really did is he presupposed his audience was intelligent.
Yeah.
He was always writing to what he considered to be a smart audience. And I think that in some ways that has been lost. Not always, but in some ways it has been.
I will say also quickly, because a lot of time, but his shows dealt with loss in a way, and the trauma of loss. Like,
do you remember? I remember when Archie. I mean, obviously this was long after it first aired, but I saw the episodes where Edith got sick.
Yeah.
And then even later he loses Edith, right? And it's like he would touch on stuff that television just wasn't touching at the time, and he was truly a pioneer. All right, what's next?
all right, Kyle Schneider says, "Hey John, Poor Things is out of the AMC Burbank 16 this weekend. I've heard for a while now that it's absolutely phenomenal. Any plans to see it soon?"
Yes, and it's funny because I was planning on skipping it, because they showed us a presentation for it at CinemaCon, and I'll be honest with you, it didn't appeal to me. It just kind of looked like some auteur filmmaker who just thinks weirdness in and of itself is a virtue, just being weird for the sake of being weird. But listen, I've talked to some people who I know who have seen the film, and there is legit Oscar buzz coming out about it now, and saying like no, the marketing is, it's like they're marketing a Paul Anderson movie or something, but
Right.
or a Wes Anderson film, I should say. But from what I'm hearing, it's an incredibly funny, poignant, moving, and they're saying Emma could get her next Oscar for it. I've also heard it's very filthy,
Yes.
which always appeals to me. So,
Me too.
I mean, yeah, I am now planning on going to see it. Yes. All right, what's next?
All right, well, I'm gonna go see -1 today at the 16.
Yeah.
I think Ann and I might go see it again tonight, actually,
Nice.
too.
Seconds from Disaster. I watched Bones and all last night. What an odd movie. I think it was a little dumb. They could smell each other just because they're ravenous cannibals.
I'll tell you what, this movie is a great example of, just because you have a great actor in something, it ain't going to make the movie great. At the end of the day, the actor's just going in there to try to breathe as much life into the script as possible, but they're still just dealing with the script they got. I was not a fan of Bone at all. And it wasn't because it was cannibalism. You put in whatever kind of hard-hitting topic you want to make edgy. I didn't find the characters particularly compelling. I thought the performances in it were all great, like across the board. But yeah, it was a very, I watched it, forgot about it. That was the kind of movie it was for me. All right, what's next?
Thomas Bombadil says, "Hi team. Speaking of Apple TV Plus, John, you've got to try Slow Horses. I personally love it.
Everybody tells me that.
Yeah, me
I've
too.
seen both seasons so far. I'm convinced it's Gary Oldman's best role ever. He seems to have so much fun.
Well, John, you and Rob have both seen this show, right?
Yeah.
And you guys love it, right?
It's a sleeper. I mean, it's a sleeper kind of on. No one talks about it, but it's
No, I haven't watched the second season though.
it's better. It's
That's
even
what,
better.
That's what
because-
I've heard.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's I just haven't watched it yet. And again, and that was a show I hadn't watched, and I came to it late. But from the very first episode, again, Apple sucks you right in. It's good.
All right, what's next?
Rob the Knight. Do you think Catholicism will be featured in the new Disney Daredevil series as a core aspect of the character?
It should.
It should.
I mean, look, it all depends on what subject matter Daredevil is confronting. But I mean, for a lot of the stories, like the very nature of his faith is sometimes a central thing to what he's doing. It's not a part of everything that he does, and maybe the first season involves a story that doesn't bring him a crisis of faith or whatever. But I think at some point they will, because it is such a key component to who and what the character is, that I think they would need to at some point. At least, not just that they need to, I think they should. I think it's one of the fascinating things about Daredevil.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
What's next?
Sin Vendetta with a $20 super chat.
Thank you, Sin Vendetta.
Hey, John and crew, are any of you planning on watching the Game Awards? If you are, what's your vote for Game of the Year? Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate. Well, he's Baldur's Gate for sure. Spider-Man 2, Alan Wake 2, Resident Evil, Mario Brothers Wonder.
First of all, Ann and I picked up Mario Brothers. I was very surprised when I saw it was nominated for Game of the Year. We picked it up. It's a load of fun. Mario Wonder is a load of fun. I liked it so much, we then went out and got the updated Mario RPG.
Oh, nice.
I think we're going to start playing that tonight. Hey, it's funny you mentioned that, because Ann and I just this morning were saying, like, hey, should we be inviting Ray and Tommy and Ryan to come over tomorrow to watch the Game Awards? Because we did that the other year. Because, yeah, 100%. We would go to the Game Awards tomorrow. We were half thinking about going to
Where's
the
it
Game
at?
Awards tomorrow. It's down at, it used to be called the Nokia Theater, but now it's the one right beside Crypto.
Yeah.
Is it still called the Nokia? No, it's now called the Microsoft Theater.
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. Anyway,
Yeah.
being held there, we thought about going, but we're just going to stay and watch it at home, I think. But, and Baldur's Gate 3 is probably the best video game ever made, so I think it's got to be considered the front runner. All right, what's next?
Pretty Iris writes, regarding GTA 6, you kept saying CGI yesterday. Rockstar Games officially confirmed it to IGN that the trailer is not CGI. It is 100% in-engine, in-game footage. That's how the gameplay is going to look.
What does CGI stand for?
Right.
What
That's
somebody, anybody? What does
Yeah.
CGI stand for?
Computer graphics imaging
Yeah.
or imagery.
Computer generated imagery,
Imagery.
computer graphics
Yeah.
imagery. It's CGI.
Yeah, that's CGI within it.
Even being gameplay footage, it is still computer generated imagery.
Right.
We're not. I didn't say.
Yeah.
I didn't say that it was cutscene stuff. I didn't say it was
Exactly.
cinematic stuff.
That's what people are getting hung up on.
Yeah, people are just getting hung up on that. Yeah, it was still very much, by every literal definition, it's still CGI, regardless of how they get to that. Anyway, what's up?
All right. Richard K says, what are your thoughts on the Kevin Costner movie Waterworld, and cools the movies benefit from...
could the movie
Or
benefit?
could the movie benefit from a remake?
Honest, I think Waterworld might have been a little ahead of its time, to be honest with you. I didn't love the movie, but I thought it was okay. I kind of liked it, but I think I don't think you can remake it. But I think if they made Waterworld for the first time today, I think it might be received a bit better and maybe be more successful than it was. I mean, hey, it spawned an attraction at Universal Studios Hollywood that lasted for like 30 years.
Yeah,
But
it took over the 18
Waterworld?
lot.
You know what? I like Waterworld. As a matter of fact, would you be surprised to know that I have it in 4K on disc?
Not in the least.
But there's the Ulysses cut. Is it Ulysses? No, it's Odysseus. I don't know. There's a longer cut of it. I like Waterworld. I don't love it because it follows those same parameters that Mad Max does.
Exactly.
You know, the loner.
You can't get away from it. Nothing is Mad Max on water.
Right, you can't. And but I love the production value. It's a lot of fun. There's great action sequences. Kevin Costner, I mean, he's giving it his all as a man with gills. I mean, you know, and there's a hot air balloon at the end.
There is that.
It's got a great
Get to the
score.
atoll. Yeah. All right, what's next?
We got Curtis Lopez. Do you think to get more viewers for the Oscars, since they already broadcast on a Disney network, do you think they'll look into streaming live on Disney Plus Hulu in the future? Boy, that would cut into ad revenue on the networks.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends. Remember, the Oscars do not belong to ABC or Disney.
They license it.
They have the license right now, but the license, it doesn't always air there. It'll go back and forth. Oscars have already started streaming. I think before you could just stream it right on their website at oscars.com, which they could add in their own ads and things like that. So it'll always be on either an ad-supported tier or something along those lines. But yeah, they've already started dipping their toes a couple of years ago into streaming as well. And I think it'll only go more into that, but it'll always be ad-supported. I mean, because that's how they make their ridiculous amounts of money every year. All right, what's next?
Curtis with a follow-up. I don't mean for the Oscars to stop airing on ABC, but showing on Disney Plus as well. But yeah, again, that cut into ad revenue.
See, what Disney could not do is just say, hey, we're going to put it on Disney Plus. They wouldn't be allowed to do that. What they could do is work out an agreement with the Academy that says, we'll simultaneously stream it on Disney Plus on a heavily ad-supported tier, and you guys get X amount of the dollars of that. They'd have to do something like that. But yes, they will lean more and more into streaming for sure.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Curtis or Richard K says, did you see the trailer for the new Shogun show? Oh yeah, he did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I simply do not have a show that I'm more excited about. I am more excited for this show, and you guys know how excited I am for House of the Dragon Season 2. You know how excited I am for Last of Us Season 2. You know how excited I am for Andor Season 2. There is nothing on TV I'm more excited for than Shogun. I've been waiting for this for 20 years.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, completely different story.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, this is like Ghost of Tsushima, like live action.
Oh, it's so good, though.
The original miniseries is my favorite miniseries of all time.
I
At
think
least
it
American
might be mine
miniseries.
as well. And the original James Clavell novel is fabulous. And I think it's going to be even more relevant today now that you can make it the way you can make it today. Anglaise.
The production value is certainly there.
It's God, it looks gorgeous. And the color palette they're using in it is breathtaking. And the cast
be
looks
good.
great.
It's just
Cannot
what
wait.
they can do today compared to how they had to shoot it in the 80s.
Yeah.
It's just completely different.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Sin Vendetta with $20 super chat.
Thank you again, Sin Vendetta, man. Thanks for supporting us in that level, man.
Yeah, I had recently canceled my annual Disney Plus subscription because my annual price went up from $80 to $140 a year. I guess that Hulu being integrated into Disney Plus is the reason for the dramatic price hike.
Again, I am a little unclear on that right now, though. I don't know that just having Disney Plus gets you Hulu. I think, and I need to be corrected here if I'm wrong, that you only will get that tab if you are also a subscriber to Hulu. Now, what they should do is just make that if you are a subscriber to Disney Plus, you also get Hulu. That's just a part of it. Maybe up the price a little bit, sure. But Hulu is like the most overlooked best streaming service. Like they have great stuff on Hulu.
Yeah.
I love Hulu. And for it to move right in. So I don't know if that price hike had anything to do with the Hulu merger. I really don't know if it's just price hiking because that's what they're going to do. Now, look, again, I still contend right now, and we're getting to the edges of it, but for now, I still we're within the realm that even at $180 per year, Disney Plus, that's still a value proposition. When you look at all the content you get for a year, I actually spent some time today going through Disney Plus, like just looking at look at all this stuff that I've been watching and all this stuff. I mean, it's still a good value proposition, but the more the prices go up, we're going to have to revisit that topic a lot. All right, what's next?
We got Jai CSC. I'll keep it short and simple today. What's your favorite sandwich?
As I've told you before, as a kid, my favorite sandwich was peanut butter, and mayonnaise.
You started off strong.
Yeah, peanut butter and mayonnaise was my favorite sandwich as a kid. Today, straight up, I like to have a marbled cheddar slice of cheese, mayo, turkey breast, and Genoa salami. That's my favorite sandwich.
That would be great as long as it's, for me, smoked turkey.
I sometimes do get smoked turkey. Sometimes I'll just go, but I think I do prefer it with smoked turkey. Yeah. All right, what's next?
All right. Finally caught up on some movies this weekend. Asteroid City, not near clever enough to be as pretentious as it was.
I didn't love it either.
I didn't feel like it was pretentious, but I do feel like it's like trying to be for the stage audience. Indiana Jones, way better than I thought it would be. Ending was just a bit weak. Blue Beetle, pretty charming, but a bit too campy when the family gets involved.
Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny did not live up to the Indiana Jones name. I still don't think it was a bad movie. I had some issues with it. I don't think it was great. But and I can point to several things that drove me crazy in it. But overall, it was okay. It was all right. I really did quite like Blue Beetle. I thought Blue Beetle was really nice. And I agree with you. It was held back sometimes by getting a little bit too campy with the family. Like, Abuela? And the old grandma with the machine. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, you didn't really have to go there. But overall, I thought it was funny. I thought it was charming. I loved the lead character. I got endeared to the main characters. Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I feel bad saying it, but I was let down a little bit by Asteroid City myself. I know. What do you think about any of those three movies, Rob?
Well, I watched Indiana Jones again. I mean, it looks good on with Dolby Vision and all that, but again, to me, it never reaches a level of real exciting engagement that, say, Raiders did. I mean, it was fine. It was better than Crystal Skull.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
But I think, it's funny that you say, I think that Blue Beetle is a more successful experience because it succeeds in doing what it set out to do. And so I found Blue Beetle fulfilling, if that makes, because it didn't let me down.
Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I was like, I enjoyed it. I'm like, okay, it's not going to change my life. What was the other one? The third?
It was Blue Beetle. It was that
Indiana Jones. It was
Asteroid City.
Oh, and okay.
The thing is he's becoming more boiled down. Wes Anderson, he's becoming a more concentrated Wes Anderson.
That's a good way to put it.
So
I mean, I'm getting what I expect from him. Like, to me, Grand Budapest Hotel was like the pinnacle.
It's so good. For me, it's the Royal Tenenbaums. Like that's the one, or The Life Aquatic, or
yeah. Well, I love all that early. I mean,
Yeah,
I love Rushmore. I love Bottle Rocket, but now it's gotten to the point where I'm like, Asteroid City was a little too much. I thought
it's monologues and it's like stage. It's all on a stage, and yeah.
So.
All right, what's next?
All right. Hey guys, from Princess Cheesecake. I was just wondering if you think that James Gunn would possibly in the future would DC make another Batman versus Superman movie.
I could see them building up to something like that. I could totally see them doing that.
What was the run where Batman could defeat the whole Justice League? Or he had like...
Oh, see, no, that's the story. See, that's the storyline. I think, and I think that one involved Randall Savage. It's the one where somebody's going around taking out...
Identity Crisis.
They
Is that
have
what the name of the main story was?
Right?
Where basically it turns out Batman had created contingency plans to take down each member of the Justice League, just in case any of them went bad.
Right.
And the wrong person got their hands on that information and started implementing it. That would be pretty
Something
cool.
like that would be good. And I still get a little bit of chills when the final line, I don't know, it's a final line, but what's your contingency?
Oh, yes. Superman. So the
Yeah.
Justice League kicked Batman out. And or Batman says, you don't even have to vote. I quit. If you guys don't see, Batman says to them, and I love this. This is why one of the reasons I love Batman so much. He looks at the Justice League and says, if you guys don't recognize that each one of you can be a global threat and a problem, then I got no place here. And he leaves, and Superman catches up to him and basically says, and you're right, Jonathan, I love this line. Superman goes, okay, yeah, that's good. But what's the contingency plan for you?
Yeah.
And he says, what's your contingency plan for you, Batman? And Batman says, you are.
You are. The Superman, yeah.
And I'm like, fuck, Batman's awesome. Like I did love that storyline a lot. Anyway, okay.
All right.
What's next?
Top Gun Manny says, do you think it's time to stop blaming COVID for low audience box office? Top Gun, Barbie, Super Mario Brothers, Spider-Man, Oppenheimer, and a few others, all different genres, all different demographics, have had huge numbers.
Sure. But the stats don't lie. Like Deadline and Variety not too long ago still reported that like over 22% of people who consider themselves quote unquote regular moviegoers, saw at least 5 movies a year, have still not gone back to the movie theaters since the pandemic.
Yeah, and that's not to say it's COVID's fault, but it's a habit.
That's not a subjective thing.
It's a habit.
That is a data point.
Yeah.
That is a cold data point. So, but listen, it would also be erroneous to suggest that's the problem.
Right.
No one is suggesting that's the problem, but you'd have to be blind not to see it's a part of it. So as long as those numbers are still, and listen, that number is shrinking because at one point it was over 35%. That number's gone down, but it's still a significant part. And listen, with 78% of the audience, you can still have the odd, big, massive hit like Barbie, like Mario Brothers, but you don't have as many of them. And the big, like, Barbie is the number one box office film of the year. It's 1.3 billion. You go back to 2018, your number one box office film of the year, that probably could have been 1.5, 1.6, stuff like that. So yes, there are still some, but the numbers reduced. The reasons the numbers reduced is because the number of people going to the movies, and again, this is just a statistical fact, the number of people going to the movies is reduced. And that's why I keep saying, movie theaters, do what you need to do to make coming back to the movie theaters easier and more enjoyable. Maybe instead of playing fucking 30 minutes of goddamn commercials before your movie's supposed to start. Huh? Anyway. Okay. What's next?
Well, Mike Price says, after watching Godzilla -1 this past weekend, I left the theater really loving and impressed with it. I think this movie is one of the best I've seen this year. Started wondering where it fit or if it made your top 10 movies list of 23. Thanks, Bring on the Filthy.
You know, I did an open mic the other day and somebody said to me, asked me if Godzilla -1 had a chance of getting a Best Picture nomination. And my first reaction was very definitively, no. It won't. I said, no, for me, it might actually, but then I thought about it because I said, for me, it might actually end up in my top 10. And then I was like, well, wait a minute. There are going to be 10 nominee spots for Best Picture. I think there's a good chance -1 ends up in my top 10. I don't think it's going to end up in my top 5, but I think it's going to end up in my top 10. So why not? And the Academy loves foreign films getting into the discussion and getting into the mix. So maybe. I still think it's the best Godzilla movie I've ever seen. I mean, I really liked it on that level a lot, and it probably will be in my top 10 for the year. What about you, Rob? You finally got a chance to see it?
I loved it.
You were barricaded at home for a while.
Yeah, that was the only time that I got out was to go see Godzilla. I mean, and I had a mask on. I did sit, away. I didn't sit in the middle where I normally would sit, but I thought it was terrific. I mean, the thing is, there are different Godzilla eras that have different films that I really love. Like, I love a Godzilla movie called Godzilla GMK All Out Monsters Attack, which is a great movie.
It's a great title.
It's a different kind of a movie than what we saw. I mean, what's interesting about this Godzilla movie, I call this movie the Skyfall of Godzilla films, the same way that Skyfall sort of elevated the Bond franchise when it came out. I think this did that because there's been all different kinds of tonal Godzilla movies, but this is legitimately a movie that transcends what Godzilla movies are, and it elevates the Godzilla genre. And I would say it's an atypical Godzilla movie. And if I wanted to show somebody examples of how can you make a giant monster movie palatable to even the most professorial, like, I do not watch monster movies. Godzilla -1's the kind of movie you could show somebody and go, look, this has legitimate things to say about the human condition, even though there's a 300-foot tall nuclear fire-breathing monster in it.
Because at the end of the day, what they did was they took a compelling story and wrapped it in the wrapper of a giant monster movie, right?
Right, exactly.
You could make an argument that Godzilla -1 is really a meditation on the philosophical struggles of a post-World War II Japan.
Yes.
Their fears and their things kind of manifested in Godzilla. And, one of the things that I said coming out of it was, what makes a really good genre film is when you take out the genre, are you still left with a really good film?
Yes.
I say you take out Godzilla, you take Godzilla out of Godzilla -1, you still have a good, compelling film with interesting characters going through like emotional crisis, and you're still left with a good movie.
100%.
Then add in Godzilla blowing up stuff with his nuclear breath, and it just makes it all the better.
Yep. 100%.
All right, what's next?
Have you seen Blue Eye Samurai from Swizzard on Netflix? Great animated show on par with Arcane. I think you would enjoy it.
I do not put it on par with Arcane. Arcane is still the greatest animated show, I think, in history. But I very much was impressed with Blue Eye Samurai. I like this show a lot. I'm a little nervous with where they said season 2 is going to go. If they greenlight season 2, I kind of don't like the way the season ended and where they're going. I won't spoil anything, but the show is great. I had no interest in it. A lot of my viewers wrote in and said you should check it out, and it is so good.
Yeah,
really, really good. All right. 2 more questions today. What do we got next?
Well, we got one more.
Okay, last question of the day.
That Funko Dad, jumping back to yesterday, RE Deadpool 3 and using the TVA being a possible mistake to only being featured on Disney Plus. I bet that not only will they feature them, but they will make at least one epic joke about the previous mistakes, while also quickly explaining the entire purpose for being in the movie, thus avoiding the same mistake.
So for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, on yesterday's show, a question was brought up because we clearly see what is generally agreed upon by most people online now is that a lot of the stuff we're seeing, the images coming out of Deadpool, is that this is in the void, which is featured in Loki season 1. And that the TVA, it seems pretty commonly understood, whether it's true or not, we'll find out, but it seems pretty commonly understood that the TVA, the Time Variance Authority, is going to play a major part in the movie and all that kind of stuff. And the question that got raised yesterday is Marvel making the same mistake with Deadpool 3 that they made with the Marvels? Because with the Marvels, they made a big piece of that movie contingent upon you understanding and having seen other Disney Plus shows. That you had to, for you to really understand and get what's going on and to feel invested in it, you had to have seen Ms. Marvel and you had to have seen WandaVision. And newsflash, a lot of people don't have Disney Plus and don't watch the shows. There's still a big chunk of people who do go to the Marvel movies that don't watch Marvel TV shows. And that was a problem. It wasn't the only problem with the Marvels, but that was a big problem that they faced. And I wondered if Deadpool 3 might be making that same mistake. Because guess what? Compared to a lot of shows, not a lot of people watched Loki. When you're talking about the general movie-going audience, and are they making that mistake that people are going to have to go back and do homework? Now, we don't know that that's the case. Hell, right now, we don't even know that that's actually the void that they're in. We're all just assuming it. So I'm not getting too worried right now. I just wondered if they might be making that mistake. I know, Rob, you weren't here on yesterday's show, but what do you think about that?
Well, look, I think cooler heads will prevail here. This is the 3rd Deadpool movie. Ryan Reynolds is in control. I think that we should trust in what he's doing. And it's not like they're putting 2 characters from TV shows. You're getting Wolverine and Deadpool. And both of those characters have been in movies that grossed more than $750 million. So I think that you've got a character with a 20-year legacy on screen, and then you have Deadpool with 2 other movies that both made over collectively over $1.5 billion. I think we're going to be fine. I really do. It's either going to be the greatest thing ever or a spectacular flame out, but I can't imagine that Sean Levy would allow that to happen either.
Or Ryan Reynolds.
Who
is in the rare position of being the star and the actual driving force of the thing. Listen, obviously I trust Ryan Reynolds with it. I do worry a little bit. And I wonder, the thing about Deadpool, somebody who's never seen a comic book movie can sit down and watch Deadpool and just laugh their asses off, right? I do wonder, and again, I'm not saying I'm afraid, I'm just saying I wonder, a little bit of pause, that now you're going to start throwing this multiverse bullshit at average movie-going audiences. Okay, so what's the void? Well, you see, when a different decision is made, it creates splinters of various timelines and multiple infinite versions of these. And then the TVA comes in and they would do what's called pruning those timelines. But every time they prune a timeline, there's a remnants of those timelines. And the void becomes the depository of where those remnants go. And now they live in kind of this, is that going to fly with the average movie-going audience? If anybody can make it work, it's Ryan Reynolds and his writers. I mean, if anybody can make it work. So I'm just saying, look, and I'm not hopping off the Deadpool 3 train. This is my most anticipated movie. I cannot wait for this, but I wonder. That's all
he has to do is explain that while he's shooting people.
If he's doing that while he's shooting people, yes, and cutting off heads, then I think they could be onto something. All right, guys. And with that down, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making this show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in topics and questions. Number 1, because you gave us fun things to talk about. But number 2, you supported our channel by doing, whether you use the super chats or you're one of our beloved YouTube channel members. I want to thank the people in the room with me. We got Ray Ora,
Tomorrow,
Jonathan Voico,
See you later.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
Bye-bye.
And just to update you guys on our annual Adopt a Family, you guys cleared it out. Days ago. You guys cleared out our Amazon wish list. So thank you so much to everybody. We're actually going to be delivering everything. This family has no idea what's coming. They think we're going to be bringing over a couple of board games, some school supplies, and they think that's it. But Sunday, we do our annual delivery. We're going to be delivering the presents. We'll update you guys all on Monday about that. And we're very, very excited about it. And thank you again to all of you who participate in that, particularly those of you who, like, first of all of you, but particularly to those of you who bought some of the bigger ticket items. You guys told me, because I didn't have a PlayStation 5 on there initially. You guys told me, John, why don't you have something like a PlayStation 5 on there? They got kids. Like, who's going to buy a PlayStation 5? Okay, put it on there. Boom, one day, gone, bought. You guys bought like 3 tablets, like all these Amazon and Visa gift cards, dressers, God, you guys just went the whole 9 yards and then some. So thank you to everybody, and we'll update you again more on that next week. All right, guys, that'll do it for us for now. Thanks a lot for being here. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.